and introduce us, and we'll kind of get going from there.
I want to raise my computer.
I do kind of, I've got things all the time where I'm lifting. I was like, I got to have the right angle so that you don't see my double chin, but it doesn't always work.
Oh, it doesn't for me.
So sometimes it takes me a second to, here we go, to get things going. I've got to confirm that we're up and running, and it looks like everything's going smooth. I can see all three of us on the screen. So happy Monday, Parents Helping Parents World. It's good to be here with you guys. I'm excited about tonight. Thank you for joining us and for being a part of Parents Helping Parents Live. So if you're not familiar with our organization and this is your first time joining us, I'd like to kind of direct you to do two things. You might be watching this video because somebody shared it on their feed. So you should be following us on social media at Parents Helping Parents Inc. on Facebook to get all the information about our organization and the great content that we're sharing. But I also want to direct you to our newly, freshly redone website, parentshelpingparents.info. That's where you can find out about the mission of Parents Helping Parents, the different chapters that we have locally, and the different things that we're doing that you might be able to get involved in. But in a nutshell, Parents Helping Parents is a nonprofit organization that's geared at providing education, peer support, and resources to parents who have a child of any age struggling with a substance use disorder. So it was founded by parents, it's for parents, and it's primarily run by parents. So what we want to do is we want to give parents an opportunity to share their own personal experiences. We want to connect people with resources, and we want to provide some education about family health and substance use and addiction kind of as we go. It's really important to remember that as an organization, Parents Helping Parents has no professional expertise. So any kind of outreach that Parents Helping Parents does should never be considered a substitute for counseling, medical services, treatment services, legal services. Any of those things we think are great and appropriate if you need them. That's not what Parents Helping Parents does, right? We're just an organization that shares our experience, connects you with resources as we go. Now, sometimes we bring in professionals or people who are paraprofessionals or are connected into the industry, like one of our guests tonight, to share with us, and they do carry a little bit of expertise. But we just want to be clear that as an organization, that's not what Parents Helping Parents does. We just offer the connection and the education. So before we get started, what I would like everybody to do, and I'm actually going to do it myself right over here as I'm looking at my other screen. I want everybody to reach up and click the share button. The number one thing that you can do, I think, to help people in your area is to make sure that people get information and get content and get resources. And clicking that share button automatically exponentially increases the reach of a video like this. So many of us have 600, 700, sometimes over 1,000 friends on Facebook. And the thing that our problems do to us is our problems lie to us. They tell us that nobody else is going through what we're going through. And so we sit in silence, suffering alone, not knowing where to find support. So I can guarantee you that if you've got over 100 Facebook friends, you know somebody, you know a family, you're Facebook friends with a family who has a loved one that's struggling with substance use disorders or a mental health related issue, and they could benefit from hearing our message tonight. So click that share button, get this video out there to as many people as we can. So hi, Kira. She's already joining us, already commented on the Facebook feed. Good to see you tonight, girl. Hey, the other thing I want to remind you of is we do have a live text line that we're monitoring. If you've got questions, if you have questions for either of our speakers, text that number. Let us know what we can do to answer those questions. If you don't get your questions answered tonight, we haven't done our job. So make sure you ask those questions and get it going. I think that's about it. So tonight we have got, I'm going to say Mr. and Mrs. Ward. Oh, it's Sonja there. Right there it is. Sonja. Cole and Sonja Ward. Not brother and sister. Lovely married couple from the great state of Texas. There was a Texas flag in the background. I'm not sure where that went. There it is. Got to represent proud. Great state of Texas. So Cole and Sonja are both parents of someone who struggled with substance use disorder. They both have their own experiences in creating change for their family. And Cole is also a representative of the Stonegate Center, which I'll let Cole talk about later on towards the end of our live stream. So what I'd like to do is just introduce yourselves, Cole and Sonja, however you'd like, and tell us a little bit about maybe your story and what you guys have been through as a family and maybe what you've learned along the way.
You first.
Me first?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Cole Word. We've been married in recovery 25 years now. My sobriety date is June the 27th, 94, and I'm very grateful for that. We're members of the Lake Whitney group. We are the AA capital of the world for those that need to know that. And we have a son that's in recovery. Sonja, of course, she'll tell you her story. She's been in recovery a long time. Just picked up a 30-year chip in Alcoholics Anonymous and has 34 years in Al-Anon. And she was really the force behind us getting help. Our son, we were always had good people in our lives, couples in recovery and long-term recovery there at the Lake Whitney group that were always so supportive of us and helped us. We had many couples meetings, which were very painful, but very beneficial to our recovery early on there at the Lake Whitney group. Couples with children in recovery and struggling with their children in recovery, as we did. You know, my son, when at 20 years of age, he got 4 DUIs in 11 months. And he would get in trouble and I would bail him out. He would get in trouble and I would bail him out every time. And the last time, Sonja, thank goodness, her Al-Anon, she told me, advised me, she said, Cole, if you bail him out again, you're going to kill him. And we left him in that Bosque County jail where I served as county judge. I served 3 terms there. That was hard to do. But we left him in that jail, and Brazos Recovery. There was a couple of men there that came and picked him up and carried the message to him there from Brazos Recovery there at Lake Whitney, Texas. And he's been clean and sober ever since. You know, it wasn't always roses. We had a lot of we called them table talks around our kitchen table there. And those were some tough talks too, that we were free, and our children, our sons were free to talk about anything they needed to talk to us about. And we had good relationship. We still have good relationship with both of our sons. They're both grown men now, and they're as good at men as you would want to meet. But I know for one, the son in recovery is active in his recovery. He sponsors young men. He goes to meetings. He chairs meetings. He is active in his recovery as we are. We're still active in our recovery because that's what we do. This disease never takes a day or a night off. It's always there, always present. But we do have tools that we pick up along the way. We've got good support group. We've got professional help that we seek when we need it. And it's a daily journey. And I've got a wonderful spouse that I walk with hand in hand. And I couldn't have done it without her. Wouldn't want to think about doing it by myself. We're in this deal together, and we're wholeheartedly support her, and she reports our son's recovery, and she's become a great ally of his in recovery. To watch those two, how long they've come, and the conversations, the in-depth conversations that they have now is just unbelievable. I'm just so grateful for that.
Yeah, thank you, Cole. Appreciate you sharing some of your stories. Sonja?
I'm Sonja Word, alcoholic. Sobriety date is January 6th of 91. And I came into Al-Anon in January 1987. I didn't know what day it was. I didn't know what color I liked. I didn't know who I was, who you were. I knew there was something wrong in my house, and I couldn't tell you what. I was 18 years old. So I have lived more than half my life in recovery, and I couldn't be more grateful. I thought our oldest child had a problem with his use of substances. And what I found was his was more of a normal teenager experience. I made him go to meetings.
What do you mean by that, Sonja? Just because I think that that's really important for families to be able to kind of differentiate, what's normal experimentation, what's normal high school and college hard-headedness,
Right.
and what's a problem. So how were you able to tell the difference?
Attitude, first thing. The very first thing was attitude. I could tell that he really was remorseful. He did not mean to do the things that he did. He did some behaviors at Texas Tech, and I pulled him out in 5 minutes and said, "We're not doing this," and he was really hurt. He was remorseful. He was aware of what he had done. He knew that there was something wrong, and he stopped. And what a difference. I didn't realize that his behavior was reasonably normal. As he got older, he realized the consequences were going to hurt him, and he stopped paying those prices. The younger son, on the other hand, showed no remorse for any of his behavior. And when he did, it was really a put on so that mom would leave him alone. That was really the gist of it. There's a lot of hurtful stuff, because I was the hard line, and Cole was the gentle I love you. And for that reason, we butted heads a lot. A really good friend of ours recently buried a child because of substance abuse overdose. And she told me, she said, "I was the hard one. I am the one he hated." And she has to live the rest of her life with that. And that's not true. I found that to not be true. And the only way I found that out is our son is in recovery. And when he made his amends to me, which is our 9th step in Alcoholics Anonymous, when he made his amends to me, we were able to talk through a lot of that. And he said he knew I could see right through him. And that was why it made him angry. And that was why he continued. And, with the illness of addiction, whatever addiction it is, it's not a matter of choosing. I wake up today and I think I'll just choose to stop at 1 or choose to only use until noon. And I think it's easy to forget because they're younger sometimes. And not all of them are young, but it's easy to forget. Once you do it, all choice is gone. All choice is gone. And if you're not in a good place spiritually, which, so many people don't have any concept of spiritual wellness. They just don't. If you're not in a good place spiritually, it's easy to get in a bad place where that loss of choice comes in, where you just have no other option. We are people who are sick in the mind. The problem with the alcoholic centers in his mind. That's straight from text of Alcoholics Anonymous. So with us, it was really painful for me to step back and watch my youngest child go 23 hours. He burned his life to the ground. I mean, you know, he went from having a job, having a girlfriend, to having a very nice car, nicer than mine, and, you know, being what appeared to be on top of the world, to jail. Totaled the car. Girlfriend wasn't hurt, thank goodness. He's locked up. And Cole said we had a lot of table talks. We had a few table screams where mom was screaming. And I finally told him, I'm not going to watch you kill him. I won't do that. And what that meant for me was I needed to love the child and hate the illness. And there's a story that I tell, and it's the biggest success I ever had in 34 years, the biggest success. I had always told our son, call. Don't get in the car with anyone else using, drinking, call. No questions asked. I'll come get you. I don't care what time it is, where it is. I'll come get you. So one night he did. One night he called. He tested this theory. And he was right toward the end. It was bad. It was bad. He was living with us again and miserable, and we were miserable, and the house was tense. But he called. And I was able for once that I'm so grateful for, to actually go pick him up. He was the guy walking on the side of the road without the shirt on and the cowboy boots in his hand, and, you know, just is thumbing a ride. And I stopped and was able to pick him up. He got in the car. I did not have to chew him out. I didn't say one negative thing. We turned up the radio and we sang all the way home. And that was loving my child while I hated the illness consuming him. And that's the principle that I've learned in Al-Anon, is to love the person, hate the illness. So that's, you know, today I respect his program enough that with 30 years sober, I'll call him and ask him his thoughts on things. I treasure his input. He is so gentle and so good to me. And I will never regret a minute of the last 4.5 years. And if I keep talking, I'll start crying. I'm just so grateful to have the son that I have today. And if he used tomorrow, I would not lose what we've had. He is precious. And all those ugly words are forgotten.
Yeah.
So thanks.
Thank you so much. Man, so many different curiosities that I have about you guys' story. I'll just kind of start with things that I was writing down as you were talking. Let's go with some. Let's start easy. I don't want to. So I was like, I don't want to invite you onto our live Facebook show and then hammer you with all the hard questions first, right? You guys mentioned several times the program of AA, and you've also mentioned a couple times the program of Al-Anon. For families maybe who aren't familiar at all with support groups and those type things, can you guys just give maybe a basic description of what the difference between those two programs are, and how to know which kind of thing is right for you?
I'm sick enough to be both, so I'll go on that one. I came into Al-Anon at 18 years old because mother was drinking, and her drinking was insane. It was crazy in my house. When I came into Al-Anon, it is for families of alcoholics, or if you are concerned someone's drinking or using is a problem, it treats the family, because what happens in the family is it's a family disease. And instead of being addicted to the substance, I am addicted to the behavior of the substance abuser. Alcoholics Anonymous treats the alcoholism. Cocaine Anonymous treats any addiction. So the difference in those programs is one treats the person with the addiction to the substance. The other treats the person with the addiction to the substance abuser.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, Cole, you get the first hard one because your wife fielded that one. So you mentioned that you had a fairly public and prestigious position as a career when your son was struggling. What was it like for you to deal with family shame? And did that impact like the family dynamic or behavior in terms of everybody trying to get healthy?
Yeah, I didn't, I handled it the best I could as an elected official in a small rural community. There weren't many secrets, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Our life was very public, and our recovery's been very public too, for better or for worse. We were always upfront about me being an alcoholic, but me being an alcoholic in recovery. In our little AA group there, we had a little AA group in Meridian that Sonja and I helped to start. And, you know, our son, even both of the sons, even came to some meetings there. But I don't remember so much any family shame about what was going on. You know, Sonja would spoon feed me Al-Anon and some of the principles of the Al-Anon program. I had good sponsor that I visited with a lot, and we'd seek professional help with our problems. But it was really like, in some ways, living in a glass box. It was very public. A lot of the anonymity, of course, is the spiritual foundation of our program, but we didn't have much anonymity in our recovery. Thank goodness we got through that. It didn't always look pretty, but you know, we had good people in recovery around us, and that really helped us, you know, not only us get our lives together and our marriage together. Our church was very active. Our little Methodist church, our church family was awesome. They were a great support group for us. And it really took the village to not only help us, our marriage make it together, but it took a village to help raise our children too. And I think that's very important. A lot of people think that folks don't really know what's going on in people's lives, and in a small community, at least, they know a lot more than you realize that you think they know.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, golly, I don't know. Looking back, I don't know what we would do different or what I would do different. We lived through it, and we hope that we can share that experience with others and give them hope.
Yeah.
That there is help out there in various places, churches, Al-Anon, Alcoholics Anonymous. The 12 steps were instrumental in changing our life and my life. And I'm just so grateful for that.
Were either of you particularly frustrated as parents, being in recovery yourself, especially frustrated, thinking, man, you guys have seen us do this recovery stuff our whole life. What are you doing?
Absolutely. If our sons could have got sober through us by osmosis, they would have.
Yeah.
Because we would just all load up and go to the meetings in the midst of our busy lives, and they'd go with us. I carried our youngest son. Our oldest son was in recovery from the time he was 4. And our oldest son, I carried him in his carry and would just set him on the table, and here we'd go and participate in our recovery and our meetings. But what's your take on that, Sonja?
Well, I want to address the last question, tell you just a little saying that I heard. What other people think of me is none of my business. So what other people are thinking in the community about our child is none of my business. And I would never let them talk to me about it.
Mm.
That's not denial, that's protecting myself.
Yeah.
And what, forgive me, what was this question?
Yeah, this was just, was there a particular level of frustration that you felt
Oh,
with your children having been around recovery language and recovery talk that
yes.
they would then, you know, slip down the same slippery slope? You know, was there a particular frustration related to that?
Well, you know, it's funny. They say nobody listened to Jesus in his hometown. Okay, they're not going to get it from me.
Yeah.
I learned that very quickly. If someone's carrying the message to one of my children, it will most likely be someone else. Was there frustration? You bet. Those boys could recite the steps back to me.
Yeah.
They could tell me the 12 steps. They could say, hey, Mom, you need a meeting. You're grouchy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I asked our youngest, I said, did you hear anything? Did you hear any recovery that you remember? He said, I don't remember much of it, Mom. So they're not going to hear it from us. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah. You know, it's really funny. I have a particular story that I tell whenever I'm working with people that are frustrated that their kids aren't listening to them. And I'm like, kids in the history of world have never listened to their parents. They'll listen to a perfect stranger, you know, before they would listen to your parents. But I have a very vivid memory of being on a camping trip with my brother and his wife and their little girl, who I think may have been 6 at the time. And we were all sitting around the campfire, and for some reason she was throwing rocks in the fire. She was being a 6-year-old. She's picking up rocks. She was throwing it in the fire. And her mom, no less than 4 times, told her, stop throwing rocks in the fire. Plunk, plunk. And after about the 4th time, I chimed in and just said, hey, sweetie, it might not be a good idea to throw rocks in the fire. And she goes, oh, okay. And just immediately stops. And then her mom's looking at me like, what the hell am I, chopped liver? Like, did I not just say that 4 times? But I think the idea is that children don't, like you said, they don't get it from mom and dad. For some reason, they need to hear it from somebody else. And I think a part of what's beautiful about you guys' story that I think other family members can take away is that so many family members think, or so many parents think, you know, this was my fault. This was somehow something that I created. And here you guys have raised your children in a recovery environment, inundating them with recovery language, and they still have to make their own decisions and make their own choices, and at times maybe fall victim to unhealthiness. And it's not the fault of mom and dad, right?
True addiction is cunning, baffling, and powerful. It truly is. And you know, I guarantee you they would work me pretty good. I was the softy, the old saying around Alcoholics Anonymous, if you want loving, come to Cole, go to Cole. He's easy. You know, he'll love you and tell you everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
If you want the hard truth, you go see Sonja. And but our boys took it. They worked me pretty good. And it in the dynamics of them and me being that way and Sonja being the way she was, you know, a lot of times it would cause friction between us in our relationship, because she would put her foot down and you know, tell me some truths that I didn't necessarily want to hear, but she was nearly always right. The principles that, you know, she set forth and you know, the truths that she gave me that I had to swallow and you know, listen and try to address what was going on in our life. And you know, these kids are they're awfully smart. especially in today's world, my goodness, it seemed like they're so advanced.
Mm-hmm.
They're so advanced, and they can work the dynamics of the parental units very early on. And you've got to just, stay on top of it best you can with your recovery family, be it the church, be it Alcoholics Anonymous or Al-Anon. You've got to stay on your toes and just be wary of what's going on, and be realistic of what's going on with your children. And you can't just stick your head in the sand and the problems they're just not going to magically go away. It takes a lot of grace, and it takes a lot of work, and you have to be all in for the right reasons. And your children's lives are at stake. And I can give you a lot of hope, but I can also tell you it takes a lot of work and a lot of love and a lot of grace.
Yeah. What advice? Oh, I'm sorry, Sonja, go ahead.
There's another thought I'd like to add to his.
Yeah.
We tend to think if we explain things in the correct order, in the right words, in the right time to our children, they're going to understand. They're going to hear it and say, oh, gee, Mom, I shouldn't throw rocks.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a line in the Alcoholics Anonymous book. It says, frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. There's a chapter in there that talks about the family after recovery. There's a chapter that describes the family in the book. And of course, Al-Anon's all about family recovery. But the point is that there are no magic words. There is no magic way to do anything that will suddenly have your child open their eyes and reveal the truth, and they get it, and suddenly they're all well. There is no magic to it. It's trudging and work.
Yeah, I almost on a daily basis with parents that I'm working with clinically, what do I do? And I say, well, unfortunately, there's not a step 1, step 2, step 3 to this. If there was, I would have written that very simple book and been on Dr. Phil years ago, but there's just not, right? Because so much of it is about our specific situations, our specific needs as individuals and families, that there's always different things. Somebody on Facebook asked what advice you guys might have for parents who aren't in recovery and don't have any experiences like you guys had with Al-Anon or with AA, but are having a child that's struggling.
First suggestion I would have is go to Al-Anon and get in recovery, because that's where I learned all that I know. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying I know everything, but I generally can help. There are no special books. It's a shared experience of support and love and care. And there are 12 steps. You said there are no steps. There are 12 steps to understand I'm powerless over the illness and the behavior of the user.
I think what's key there, those are 12 steps to change yourself.
Yes.
Not 12 steps to change your child. And there's a big difference there, right?
Yes. And there is nothing to change a child. If there was, all like you said, you'd have written the book on it.
Yeah.
There is nothing that I can say, and there's nothing that I can do to make their behavior different. What I can do is not enable that sick behavior and sacrifice our family, being me and Cole and our other son.
Yeah.
Sacrifice. I mean, we're talking, I've seen people basically hang on a cross so that their using child can stay in a nice apartment, or so that the using child can continue to drain the bank account. Mm-hmm. I learned not to sacrifice the rest of our family. That is not fair to the rest of the family, and it causes resentment and anger.
Yeah.
And I think, in a big city, open meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, I think would be a good place to go and seek some help.
So Cole, tell people what you mean when you say an open meeting, because there might not be people that are familiar with that.
Well, they're open meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. They're open to anyone to come there that's struggling or has a problem, and you can voice that in an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, or in Al-Anon would be an excellent place to get some resources, to get some help, to get some phone numbers, to get some basic support for problems within the family.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the
open AA meetings also are for families to learn about the illness. They can go and listen to alcoholics talk about the illness itself and how they recovered. And that will give the family some hope to understand a little more about it. That it's not a choice. Their child's not choosing to be hateful and ugly. It's an illness.
Yeah.
In any of the cities, they've always got an Alcoholics Anonymous intergroup. You can Google the Alcoholics Anonymous intergroup, and they'll give you directions and phone numbers and meeting schedules but if go to the open meetings, you'll always be welcome there.
Yeah. What advice would you have for parents who like actively have a child in treatment, in terms of how can they support their child while they're in treatment, and how can they support recovery in healthy ways?
Go, Sonja.
The biggest impact that his treatment had on me was when we had family day. We went to family day, of course, and on family day, they explained enabling in about 2 minutes. They said, the fella in the front said, okay, I'm the user. And he walked over to someone and he said, give me $5. I need $5 for gas. And that person said, no. And he said, this is what's going to happen when they get out of treatment. I need $20 for groceries. And that person said, no.
Yeah.
And they kept doing that, and supporting them in treatment. I have to say the very first thing is make sure your home that they're coming home to is a clean and sober home.
Mm.
Because when you're drinking and you're using and they come out of treatment, it's kind of like church camp. You come back home, you feel real good, you're ready to do something different, and you walk back into the same stuff, different day.
Yeah.
So supporting them in treatment, I think, Cole, you took cigarettes. He's trying to get better. We want to help. We're not giving cash. But supporting him in treatment was, if the treatment center said, Mom, you need to come in and talk to us. Okay, I'll be there. What time? We're having family day. Okay, we'll be there. What time?
Mm-hmm.
I think, Cole, you went and talked to him by yourself too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And another thing, when our youngest son was in the throes of addiction, we were down in Houston at the time, and I found a men's only Al-Anon meeting. And the support I got there's these strong men in recovery that were in the program of Al-Anon, and I never will forget the type of support they gave me, because I didn't have he was just in the throes of addiction. And I never will forget, those men gave me such good advice on what I could do to not enable, and to not, be active participant in his disease. And I will always be grateful for the men's Al-Anon meeting that I found there in the cities, in the big cities, or even folks out in the rural communities. You can be able to find an Al-Anon meeting, and they will help you so much.
They say that we didn't cause it, we can't control it, and we can't cure it, but we can contribute to the problem.
Mm.
And contributing to the problem is continuing to put out money. If they end up on the street, that's where they are. If they end up going hungry, that's part of the illness. That doesn't mean I'm a bad mom. That doesn't mean I'm a mean human being. That means that I'm allowing them to suffer the consequences of their illness. And at some point, maybe they'll be miserable enough to reach out a hand and ask for help. But the example I set by asking for help for me is a good example. That way they know there's help out there. Whether it's a church, whether it's, there are different ways to recover. It's not just AA or Al-Anon. Those just happen to be what we know.
Yeah. You guys each mentioned, just experiencing a lot of pain through this whole process with your young people. How do parents begin to deal with that pain, or what are some of the ways that you guys learn to deal with the pain of just watching your son struggle?
Prayer and meditation helped me tremendously, doubling down on my spiritual life. God is always there. He's always present and always willing to listen. And I know that sounds like such a pat answer, but in the final analysis, God is always there and he's always present. And that in the support of other people and God speaking through others, being honest where you're at in dealing with your children or dealing with the pain that you have at the time. There's nothing like being honest and walking into a room or with a pastor or a support group and just be as honest as you can. And you have to be transparent and honest for you to receive help. You've got to, it takes a level of humility to go and admit that even in recovery, or that you don't have a problem with drugs or alcohol, that your children's life is affecting you and your relationship. You've got to get honest with that and be transparent and share that.
Yeah.
And see, I'm still very, very sick because
Me too.
I had to go walk and pound pavement, and I had to go get on a treadmill until I couldn't move anymore. And I had a tremendous amount of anger. I was angry. And the reason I was angry is because I was afraid. And that's the only way that fear manifests in me. I don't instantly hit my knees and say, please, God, help me. I don't let go of anything unless it has claw marks on it. I will fight it. And it was an extraordinary amount of anger I had to get out because I was so scared. I knew my baby was going to die. And he would have if he had kept going that way. And he still may. We talk about that a lot. Just because I've been sober
to this day.
No, just because I've been sober a long time does not mean that I'm going to stay sober till I die.
Yeah.
I have today. Yeah. But the fear for me came out through anger, and I had to physically get that anger out on someone besides the addict.
Yeah.
Wow. Or her husband.
Yes.
I'm very confident that Miss Sonja would have never taken any of that out on you, Cole.
I know she wouldn't.
No, I kickboxed for a long time.
There you go. That'll do it for sure. Hey, if you guys had like 1 minute to offer some hope or some encouragement to a family that's really struggling right now, what would you want to tell them?
Find something you believe in and surrender your child to it. Choose your concept of God and surrender, because you're fighting a disease and an illness you can't beat. The only way your child will get better is for you to surrender, allow them to suffer the consequences, even unto death. unfortunately. We see this because there's hope for you to get better and survive it. And then you can help others with what you learned. So all I have to share is my experience, strength, and hope with others. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I think, yes, like we have learned that life is a succession of surrenders. It's not a one-time surrender deal and you're done. Life requires that we surrender on a daily basis. But there is hope out there. My goodness, you're not in this deal alone. The disease wants to cut you out, and it wants to get you where you're by yourself with your own thoughts and you're alone, and it will pound you mentally. But just know that you're not alone in this together, that you have to reach out. You can reach out and get help. I would say it many times. Alcoholics Anonymous is a great place. Al-Anon, a good Al-Anon family group, is an excellent place to reach out for help. Some of your churches, your large churches, pastors, they're on the firing line. They're there for a reason. But you've got to make the first move. There's help out there. There's hope out there. There's love out there, and you don't have to do it alone. You're not in this by yourself.
Yeah.
There's many people struggling today that are finding a way. They're finding hope. And that's what I would look you in the eye and tell you the most, that there is hope and there is help.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Hey, Cole, I would be regretful if I didn't give you an opportunity just for 2 or 3 minutes to tell us about Stonegate, the treatment center that you're affiliated with. So just give us kind of like the 3-minute, the Stonegate rundown on, and what Stonegate might be able to do to help families who are listening.
Stonegate Center, when I went out there and crossed the bridge into Stonegate, I felt the presence of God. We used the 12 steps of recovery, blended the 12 steps of recovery and Alcoholics Anonymous, blended with the Recovery Bible. We're spiritually principled, Christian principled. It's a blend of faith and recovery, unlike I've ever seen anyplace else. I'm partial to Stonegate because I feel the presence. I've felt the presence. I've seen with my own eyes. I've sat with the men when I first went to Stonegate, and I saw what goes on in those rooms. They're very busy, scheduled from 6 in the morning to about 10 at night. And they've got counselors on hand. We've got clinicians on staff. We've got doctors on staff there at Stonegate. We believe in you and we believe in recovery. It's just a phenomenal place. The Hilltop is the center for our women, and Creekside is the facility for our men. There's equine therapy, ropes courses. There's just you're gonna, it says in the big book, when we've got to get to causes and conditions. When we put the drug or the alcohol down, we're faced with what's really going on in our lives, and there's no better place than Stonegate Center to address what's really going on and to get to the causes and conditions of why we're drinking and why we're addicted to drug, why we're using illegal substances.
Yeah.
To run from. What are we running from? And you will find the answers there at Stonegate Center. I just believe in it. I just believe in it wholeheartedly. What Stonegate's about. Just a beautiful program.
If people want more information about Stonegate Center, Cole, how can they get that? How can they reach out and get in touch with you guys?
Well, you can Google Stonegate Center, or you can get in touch with me here, and I can send you some videos. But the easiest place, you can Google Christian Rehab Facility, and Stonegate Center will be the first one that pops up.
Okay.
You can get information from myself or Kiera. She's just a dynamic person, lady in recovery, and she will help anyone up around in the state of Oklahoma. If you're from Texas or out of state or out of Texas, you can Google us or get in touch with Kiera or myself, and we'll be able to get you in touch with help.
And you
Hey,
can contact him on Facebook too. Cole
Yes,
Word.
Facebook.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Cole Word on Facebook. Hey, I just want to thank you guys for what you do, both professionally and personally in the recovery community. I obviously didn't meet you guys until today, other than exchanging some emails and setting this stuff up. But I know, based on what I've heard about your history, that you guys have helped countless individuals. Probably won't even know how many people you've really helped on this side of things. But thank you guys for your commitment to your own health and wellness and your own recovery. And thank you for letting that spill over into the people that are around you that might be hurting. Thank you for doing this for us. We really appreciate the wisdom that you guys were able to bring into this and into the live stream. So
Thank you, Derek.
just
It's an honor.
appreciate you guys. Yeah, thank you
Yes.
so
Thank you.
much. For people that are catching kind of the end of it, if you need more information about Parents Helping Parents, visit us at parentshelpingparents.info. We have support groups for parents in Edmond, Norman, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Wichita, and typically non-pandemic meetings. We would invite people like Cole and Sonja to come and present and talk to the group of parents that are there. Right now, all of those chapters are hosting Zoom meetings, which is similar to what we're doing now, but you can see lots of different faces and hear lots of different input, and it's more of a support group style format. So, in addition to that, our Parents Helping Parents chapters, all of those different chapters have what we call warm lines. They're not hotlines because probably nobody's going to answer at 2 a.m. But somebody's going to call you back at 7:30 when they get that voicemail, right? So if you need something in one of those communities and want to reach out, feel free. parentshelpingparents.info and at Parents Helping Parents Inc. on Facebook. Word family, thank you so much again for being here. I appreciate you guys. If you're ever up in Oklahoma, I'd be more than happy to buy you a cup of coffee and
you.
just hang out. Thank you guys so much. And thank you guys for listening and for watching, everybody that joined us on the World Wide Web. Go internet, right?
Right.
All right.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys so much. Have a beautiful night.
You too.